Well, hello everyone. My name is Jerry Wise, and I am a relationship expert, a family systems expert, and I work with helping people learn self-differentiation. And I want to welcome everybody this evening. And I'm going to check here and see if I can go live on my channel here. Where is the live button? It should be. I don't see my live button, but that's okay. As long did you?
I have.
Okay, good. I have Ellen, who is helping me this evening, and I think some others are watching and are moderating, and Ellen's going to be giving me questions, and I hope as people begin to join us that you will send some questions in for me to answer or at least pontificate on. I will do the best I can to in fact, I might be able to go live on here. Maybe. Not yet. Okay. I'll do the best I can to answer questions tonight and help you with understanding some of the things I want to share this evening. While you're getting some questions ready, Ellen's going to take the questions down for me. We've got about 90 minutes tonight we're going to spend together. And I wanted to share some things while people are getting questions and sending them in via the chat, which Ellen will pick up. One of the things that I work with so frequently with the clients that I see involves the issue of enmeshment and the difficulties that enmeshment plays in families, in relationships, in marriages, parent-children relationships, children-to-parent relationship, and how that can be very difficult. Also, since I know a lot of folks have experienced narcissistic abuse, and that's a very common problem that people who are on our channel tonight have experienced, and I as well, and that you become enmeshed with the narcissist, and it's very difficult to pry yourself out of that relationship. And oftentimes we have tended to have boundary issues, enmeshment issues prior to getting involved with a narcissist or marrying a narcissist, and it can really create some real problems for us. And so I work on helping people to become less enmeshed. I also help those who have suffered narcissistic wounds, narcissistic abuse, to work on coming out of denial. And I had a client even today was saying, I have just learned that my mother, I believe, is a narcissist and maybe a covert narcissist. And she said, I had no clue whatsoever. I had no clue whatsoever that she was that way. But now that I've read the symptoms, now that I've read more about it, I'm going, that makes so much sense as to the craziness that I have gone through. And so she just has realized that she's had a parent who's been narcissistic, and that her dad tends to be a flying monkey in the process, and even her brother. And so, because I think the brother is kind of enmeshed with mom and is the golden child, because he takes care of the mom's needs, and it's basically mom's kind of self-absorbed in her narcissistic way, And so she has felt enmeshed in this family and enmeshed with mom, either enmeshed through anger or enmeshed through frustration or irritability, or enmeshed through closeness and over closeness and mind reading and over functioning, and because there's two sides of enmeshment. Even our anger can be a part of that cycle of enmeshment, because neither extreme distance nor extreme over closeness resolves enmeshment. And so that's where you have someone who's been in a family and is enmeshed. They have a crazy family, and they and so then they decide they're going to move to the other side of the country because I don't want to be around my parents because they are just crazy, and so are my siblings, so I'm going to try to get away from them. Now, truly, you can get away from them, and if there's malignant narcissism, if there's abuse and those kinds of things, we certainly don't want to stay in those situations and shouldn't. And I think many times people think I want people to stay in bad situations because they'll take my self-differentiation work as you should stay and be abused. And that's not at all what I believe or feel or think's important. What I try to do is help folks decide whether they should go no contact or do they need more self-differentiation. Because sometimes people don't know, they haven't explored the self-differentiation work with their family, and they feel the only option they have is no contact. Well, if you're being abused, misused, lied to, etc., well then, yeah, I don't think any self-differentiation is going to address that. But we can be mature even with some of those kind of traits as well. And our goal is to grow up and grow beyond the narcissism and grow beyond the narcissist. And so someone moves clear on the other side of the country and they go, boy, I'm glad I got rid of that. But now they have marital problems, they have problems with their kids, they have problems with their friends, they have all kinds of problems that stem back to the problems with their family. And they thought by getting a geographical cure that they would resolve that. Well, now that we're 2,000 miles away, we should be fine now. No, you're not 2,000 miles away. You're only about 5 inches away from your family of origin, from maybe the surface of your skin inside to your heart. That's how far you are away. I don't care if you go 2,000 miles away. What I try to help folks do is to get their family out of them. That's what we want to do so we can be ourselves. And that's our goal, to get our family out of us so that we can be us, truly us, and not just this super self of our family of origin. And so many people walk around and believe they have a self, but they're operating out of a super self that it includes the family of origin. And it really is a problem. So let me talk about enmeshment a little bit. I've been working on, and the title of this, I've been working on this video, and the title of this new project is Learning to Differentiate Rather Than Defend. Because we often find ourselves defending ourselves and not knowing how to differentiate ourselves. Again, if you're with an abusive, malignant narcissist, nothing's going to probably change them. So no technique is probably going to fix that. But for other family members or other folks, and maybe folks who might be on the narcissistic continuum, but down at the lower end, narcissistic traits, even some covert narcissists, it can be effective. We want to work on not defending, but I think I want to not defend rather than I want to not defend, and I want to differentiate whether I'm talking to my boss, talking to a coworker, talking to a family member, it's valuable for all of our relationships. But let me tell you first where the problem is. The problem is with, first of all, enmeshment. There's an over close relationship that we have. And I know bosses who can be very enmeshed with their employees. They feel like they can tell their employees anything. They feel they can ask their employees anything. They feel they're the boss, so they can say, "Oh, well, how much did your house cost? Are you having trouble with your marriage? And how's your husband? And how are you guys getting along?" Now, it's one thing to be kind and empathetic about that. It's another to do it out of enmeshment, nosiness, power, control. Then it becomes more toxic. And there's a lot of folks out there who come from enmeshed families, come to work and enmesh with others at work. And we can have lots of enmeshment going on there. So what are some of the rules of enmeshment? And of course, enmeshment is over closeness. And that's where you have the two circles that overlap each other. That's enmeshment. We're over close. What we want to have is two circles that are touching but not overlapping emotionally. We don't want to do that emotionally. And so that enmeshment is when I am less me and I'm more us. There's too much we-ness and not enough I-ness. And that's often true in lots of family of origins. So that's kind of enmeshment. And one of the things I always say is that with enmeshment, respect is not required. That respect is not required. And in fact, I remember the movie, probably some of you may remember if you're older like me, the movie Love Story with Ally McGraw and I forget the guy who was the lead in it. And it was a big love story. It's a very popular movie at the time. There was some popular music from it. And the line that came out of it that everybody used as a kind of a theme or a meme across is, love means never having to say you're sorry. And that was the big line. That love means you never having to say you're sorry. And that was somehow the wisdom that came out of this movie. Not sure how wise that is, but that was the big line. I like to use the line by saying, love means I never have to respect you. And that's the rule and maxim for enmeshment. Love means I don't have to respect you. Because I love you. So I don't have to respect you. Remember, we're family, or we're married, or I'm your mother, or whatever the statement. I'm your boss. I'm your coworker. I'm your best friend. And so love means I never have to. Okay, great. And so I think respect is not required in enmeshment. You will find respect missing. Privacy is not valued. You will find that with enmeshment. There is a belief that I must answer each and every question someone asks me, no matter who they are, that I must answer every question I am asked. Because remember, they're only asking for altruistic reasons. They're only asking because they love you. I also must fix their upsetness. I must fix their anger, manage their intensity, anxiety, and their neediness. That's a part of enmeshment. I must only defend myself in a highly reactive way, because that's the only thing that works in an enmeshment paradigm. You have to defend yourself in a reactive way. Do you know that defending yourself in a reactive way maintains the status quo? It keeps things just as they are. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. They think, well, I told her off. No, you did tell her off. But you told her off because of the enmeshment and too much closeness and pinging that's going on between the two of you. That's why you had to tell her off. So I'm not sure you gained a victory there. Because the next time she'll tell you off or whatever. But we haven't changed the system. We still have a paradigm of enmeshment. And the pinging is when I get reactive, when I feel caught, when I feel I don't know what to do, I don't know what to think. Pinging is reactive. And in fact, I'll give you an example here in a minute. So I must only defend myself in a reactive way. I must de-self so I do not offend or confuse the other with maturity or selfness or seem disagreeable or uncooperative. Because that's what enmeshment requires. That you must do all of those things and keep those balls in the air as you juggle them. And you must do all those things because maturity and having a self disrupts enmeshment. And it will cause conflict, or at least it will cause a ping to them that will feel uncomfortable to them because they don't feel you are responding well to them. And it's you. It's not me being immature. It's you being immature. Why are you acting this way? And I'll give you an example in a moment here. And in enmeshment, I must remember my fear. If I stand up if I stand up for me, I will be rejected or abandoned. So I must not stand up for me because that will make my biggest fear come true. And remember, family and friends may feel or ascribe to the belief that love means you never have to have respect. And many times that you never have to say you're sorry. Let me move to the example and then I'll go to some questions here in a minute. I've got 2 or 3 questions here that have come through. But let me kind of finish this, the enmeshment that we get into with friends, spouses, and parents, children. There's a certain polarity, just like with electrical poles and electrical feed, electrical circuit. There's a certain polarity or gravitational pull with enmeshment. And it's the way the emotional field flows between us when we're enmeshed. Differentiating versus defending changes this polarity in the relationship. Defending keeps the polarity the same. In other words, when we defend ourselves, we are promoting too much togetherness. And as I've mentioned in the past, there's a togetherness force and a separateness force. And so there's too much togetherness when we defend ourselves. When we differentiate ourselves, we have less togetherness and a little more I-ness. And so that shifts the polarity in the relationship. Now, this is not always welcome to those who are enmeshed with us. They're not happy about that at all. But it is a way to begin to work out of enmeshment. Differentiating shifts or changes the polarity to greater maturity level, and a less enmeshed position. We have a better balance between togetherness and separateness. Let me give you a simple example. My mother, who has passed away, but she passed away at 93, but I'll just say when she was 90, because I know she was older when we had this encounter. And by the way, I'm no young man, but she was older than me. And I remember coming to see her, and she said, oh my gosh, Jerry, when are you going to get a haircut? I hate for you to go out like that. You look so scruffy. Wow. Now, I have a choice. Defend or differentiate. Probably you know the defend answer and the defend response. Well, Mom, I couldn't get into a barber. I've been so busy. I couldn't get there. And I don't like it when you talk about my hair. It drives me nuts. Don't you know I'm an adult? And I'm tired of you talking about that. Are Mom and I still enmeshed after that response? Yep. There's been no space put between us. We are still just as enmeshed. She now, I kind of ranted at her. Excuse me. I've kind of ranted at her. and I've been reactive because it got pinged when she said what she said. I got pinged and I was not happy about that. And so I then can go into a defense mode. Mom, I hate it I can't believe you would bring that up. I am not a child. Remember, whenever you say, I am not a child, you are acting internally like a child. Whenever you say, I am not this, you're probably doing it as you're saying it. What you're saying is, I don't want to be a child. And Mom, stop treating me like a child. The thing is, I don't need Mom to change anything. I need me to change me. And so I can defend myself or I can differentiate myself. How do I get a better balance between separateness and togetherness with my mom about my haircut? And that's a very simple example. There could be thousands of other simple examples like that. But how would I get? And there are some good questions. First of all, I recognize that in relationships, we have like a tennis net. And I always remember there's a tennis net between you and me. I'm on one side, you're on the other side. And I always want to maintain that tennis net. I don't wish to go on your side of the court. I don't wish you to go on my side of the court in tennis. And that there is a net. With enmeshment, there is no net. We're just all globbed together. So there is no net. Nothing separating us at all. We're just one clump. We're a super self. And so I want to begin to say, no, there is a net between Mom and I. She can think my hair looks terrible and scruffy, and that what will people think about her as a parent if they see me with long hair in the back, because that's the only place I'm going to grow hair. You obviously, well, it can get long up here too, and it can get scruffy with the little, not with just the little few hairs that are up there. But it can be long back here. I tend to grow it long back there, but I was too busy, and I don't care. And obviously so we have the net. And so I think, we have a net. Let me ask Mom how she's doing over there. Because I'm not going to do over there. I'm not going to do over here what she's doing over there. Mom, does that upset you? Now, they may lie and say, oh, no, that doesn't upset me. That doesn't worry me. Well, Mom, you brought it up in a pretty intense way. I figured it may have upset you. But if it doesn't, okay, what'd you have for lunch? Or I can say, Mom, does that upset you? And remember, I'm keeping her on her side of the net. And she may go, well, yes, Jerry, your hair looks so bad. And I'm embarrassed to call you my son when you have hair like that. And then I would say, from my side of the net, not her side of the net, my side of the net, Mom, I don't feel embarrassed. And in fact, it doesn't even bother me. So I see it bothers you, but it doesn't bother me. What'd you have for lunch today? She can be bothered by it all she wants. And in fact, when we actually had a conversation about it, I did tell her, Mom, it's perfectly okay for you to feel that way. You can tell all of your friends that my hair looks terrible. You can tell all of your friends that you didn't raise me this way. You can tell everybody you want that Jerry just doesn't know how to deal with his hair. Just don't talk to me about it, because it doesn't bother me. And I will ask you to maintain that boundary. I don't want to talk about that. I'm not going to say, I'm 60 some years old and how dare you. No, now I'm just being reactive as a kid. The other response is I'm being an adult and saying, this is what I want. You can be and think whatever you want to think and be. That's perfectly okay. So we want to differentiate ourselves, not defend ourselves. And let me just add one more thing here, and then I'll get into some questions. And these are keeping the tennis net between us kind of conversations, and de-enmeshing kinds of, well, I see you're upset, but I'm not. And that's all there. I'm just not upset like you are. And so there's a force or a pressure for me to have to mirror Mom's upsetness, or to get worried about it, or get pinged. And if I don't, there's something wrong with me. But there's nothing wrong with me. I don't need to get upset or get pinged by that. So the you're upset, I'm not approach. The, well, Mom, I see it differently. End of conversation. I see it differently. I don't feel comfortable talking about this. Well, Jerry, how much did you pay for that house? Well, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable talking about it. Well, I'm your mother. What's wrong with you? I love you. Yeah, but I just don't feel comfortable talking about that. Or I would say, well, I wouldn't say it that way, Mom. Or you might say, I'm not sure how that would help you. If somebody comes and says, well, did you get a raise? Well, I'm not sure how that would help you. If somebody comes up and say, who I'm working with, and they say, did you get a raise? I'm like, well, would it help you in some way? Because I don't know why you're asking. Thank you for your concern, but there's no need to be concerned. There's no need to be. But thank you. Yeah, but I'm afraid you're going to marry somebody who's, I don't want you to marry. The dad says to the daughter, I don't want you to marry Bill. Who knows what kind of guy he's going to be. And thank you for your concern, Dad, but, you know, there's no need to be. But if you choose to be concerned, you can. You have a right to be concerned if you want to be. But I have a right to not care about it. That's what I want to do. And then there is the one where I might even say, you know, I'd like to give our relationship a little bit of space. I think we just need a little bit of space. I have people that I work with all the time whose parents will expect them to call them 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week, and that's very common. Or they want to come over. I have one that just, and I remember just a week or so ago, mom just wants to come over all the time. She wants to call, she wants to text, and it's smothering the son's marriage, and it's causing lots of difficulties, and she's not really all that friendly with the wife, and it just really causes problems. And so, again, Mom, I'd like to give our relationship a little bit more space. And so I'd like to talk to you a couple times a week, and we can have you over on Sundays. That's what I feel comfortable doing. Well, I'm your mother. Why would you not want to spend time with your mother? Because I don't know why I would. I'm not sure I understand your question, Mom. Why would I not want to spend time with my mother? I believe I would be spending time on Sundays, and we would be talking a couple of times during the week. I believe that's what we'd be doing. And I think that's spending time with my mother. Yeah, but why wouldn't you want to spend more time? Well, that's because it's my preference. That's what I prefer. I would, that's just something I've chosen. It's like vanilla or chocolate. I might choose which one I prefer, and I prefer this. I'm sorry if it's upsetting to you. Now, I realize some parents can come back and be very, very attacking. Well, there's not going to be a whole bunch of help for either malignant folks who are going to be very attacking. You have to move out of their space, whether no contact or whatever you need to do to get space with that. The other thing is, it's also worth trying for someone who might be in the middle in terms of dysfunctional, to see if I can train them, because actually what we're doing is we're training people around us to teach us and to relate to us as adults. That's really what we're doing. Now, some people will be welcome, open, and choosing to change. Some people will not. And those who don't, we then lessen our contact with them. We have more boundaries, and we may have to go to no contact. Or we may have to go to little contact. I've even had people go down before they get to no contact, go all the way down to just correspondence. That's the only thing we can do. I will only do correspondence. I remember having the couple in New York State, I think, and you would not. Well, you probably would believe some of the craziness and the gifts that they would get, and just it was psychotic how intense the enmeshment and the gift giving and things like that was. It was literally psychotic, broken from reality. Like parents getting the son who's an electrician crayons and giving socks to his wife. I mean, it was just nutty stuff. And so they really had to limit their contact with their crazy parents, because they would just not abide by their boundaries. They would not respect them at all. So they were not. When people are not workable, then we have to make more drastic measures. I'm talking about generally people who are workable. In my talk is what I'm talking about. Certainly I have people always say, well, what about the people who do this? Well, there's no magic answer for people who do that. That's just horrible. I mean, you have to just stop. You either have to go no contact, or there's no good technique, and I don't know that any therapist, any coach would have the magic. People will say, well, how do I make my malignantly narcissistic daughter allow me to see my grandchild? That's a tough one. I mean, I've worked a long time in this business, but there are some things that don't just have an easy answer to them. And you're right. Now, I have worked with some folks who have worked with me long enough who were able to win back their children. and able to see their grandchildren, and it really looked like a lost cause. But they had to go slow, they had to work very methodically in a family systems way, not be reactive. It really was a long work, but it did work. And there are some others that it has worked for, but it's not an easy road. Because when you have somebody who's psychiatrically or has a personality disorder, that is difficult to deal with. Whether borderline or narcissistic, when we start getting into those cluster B personality disorders, like in the DSM-5, then the diagnostic manual for psychiatric disorders, then it's going to be a mess. And there's no easy answers. But I do offer the support for the parent to learn to let go and be themselves, which is a better polarization of the relationship between the unwell child and the grandchild. It actually does have an effect by us changing, believe it or not. Now, not an instant cure, I'm not... let's see here. That's an interesting. What's the right response when we want to tell people to take a flying, you know what? Well, I think it's always. I think what is my age? I am 64, very close to being 65. Fortunately, I don't feel 65, but it is coming. What is the right response? And what I want to do is, how can a 65-year-old man tell someone to take a flying leap? And I think the way I think of it is, what do I want to do as an adult? I don't want them to ping me, and I don't want to do it out of reactivity. That's one thing I don't want to do. I don't want them to matter that much. I want to be able to say, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's not going to work for me. I guess this is over. Now, I can use cuss words, I can use whatever, but then I'm kind of putting too much energy into them. I'm giving them too much power. Why do I want to give them that much power? I don't want to give them that much power. And I just see that someone reminded, if you have a question, write question large and large type, so that we know that's a question when you do when you are making a request for a question. So I hope that helps you in how I might think about that. In terms of telling someone to flying, I just want to end the dynamic. That's all I want to do, and move on with my life. I'm not going to give them that much power to be that upset. I don't want to waste my life energy being that upset over someone that I want to tell, go take a flying leap. I don't want to waste my energy with that. Why can't I speak to my parents about their behavior and sexual abuse from my brother? Well, of course, I don't know why you can't. I always tell people, if you're going to confront your parents about the abuse by a family member, a brother, an uncle, or whatever, a parent, whenever you're going to expose a big secret, you work through it first. And people will ask me, well, when should I tell my parents how upset I was about my brother sexually abusing me? You know what my answer is? When you don't need to. When you don't need to is the perfect time to tell them. Because then you're not doing it to get something from them. You're not trying to obtain something from them, or that You need them to heal you. You don't need your parents to heal you. You don't need your brother to heal you. You have to heal you. Now, that doesn't mean that I need to hold the secret forever. I don't need to do that. But I need to work through it where I don't care anymore. Then I would share, okay, Mom, let me tell you, hey, when I was growing up, the brother was sexually molesting me. And I think it's really sad that I had to go through that, and it was very frustrating. Mom then is aghast, and she's about ready to faint. But I don't care. It doesn't matter what her response is. That was my life reality. When Mom says, well, you and your brother got along really well. Well, Mom, I don't know if you're aware about the sexual abuse. And you're saying it calmly, as an adult, as a reasonable person, and not, I'm going to tell my parents so they ask for forgiveness and so they see how much that hurt me. No, you're not ready to do it. You're still reactive, you're still pinging, and it's not going to work. I can pretty much guarantee it won't work. It will backfire on you if you have that kind of intensity behind it. And so I wouldn't advise it. I do advise people to talk and to let the secrets out. I do advise that when it doesn't matter to them anymore. Okay? When it doesn't matter. I think Aisha is asking about what is your best advice for a pastor and his family to differentiate with the congregation and keep family privacy and keep family life private. That's a good question, and I remember when I was a pastor, that was a struggle that I have. How am I the pastor and a part of the community, and how am I my family and who I am? How do I balance both of those? And that's a real challenge for pastors to do, because we're all supposed to love each other, and of course churches, mosques, synagogues, we're all a family, and so we all use the family language in the religious communities. You have the pastor, the imam, or somebody who's kind of the father figure. You have the church group in the Christian context, which I'm a little more familiar with. You have the church is the mother of all people, and then you have all of us who are the kids. And we're the sheep, and so there's a lot of family dynamics in that church understanding. And so we sometimes think, well, then we all live in a fishbowl, and and that I should be available 24/7 as a pastor, which is unreasonable, very difficult to do, living in a fishbowl and being available 24/7. And that I should always love and be loving and always giving 24/7 in an almost superhuman way. And that's why I called a lot of my phase, even though there were many positive sides to being a pastor, some of it was being a paid codependent. I got paid to be a codependent, and I called that being a pastor. And then that causes its own problems. Let's see. This is Deb. Regarding invites to my son's in-laws. So this is the mom of the son, and the son has in-laws. The father is a malignant narcissist, and he doesn't see it. Should I just make excuses? There is a grandchild, and it's all or nothing. And that's very difficult, because if you what I've tried to do is help folks to massage and work that process in a family system way to see if we can make it not all or nothing. Because I don't know what the son would do if you were to say, hey, Bill, if that's the son's name, you know, I'm just not very comfortable with your wife's father. It's just kind of difficult for me to be with him. Is it necessary that I go? I would always be cordial. I would always be polite. But you know, it's just we don't hit it off very well. And maybe I want to go further and say, you know, he's just not well in my mind. But that's my opinion. It's your in-laws. It's your, you know, and then see if he's going to just pull the grandchild away from you because of that. And again, that's one of those really difficult, sticky things that, you know, when someone is totally blind, someone's a narcissist, and someone is so enmeshed they can't see their way out, there's not a simple answer to that. It's not, well, just do this and it will all work out. What we have to do is let go and go on with our life. And sometimes that means giving up grandchildren, giving up children, giving up. I'm not saying we want to do that. Please, I remember having to make choices of my own about my own granddaughter, because there was some dysfunction there and how difficult it was that I had to let my granddaughter go for a while because it just was too crazy. And unfortunately, it was very, very painful. And so I'm not sure I can save anybody from that pain, but I think maintaining maturity, self-differentiation, and moving that direction is the best way to do that. Are these two? Okay, where's the C next? Oh, I got you. Great. Okay. Sorry. I'll let you rest your ears just a minute while I get a little drink. I know I just get to talking in a machine gun fashion. Ah, that tastes good. Let's see here. Pressing, but I do feel guilty.
Asking about that one, I think. In the chat.
These? Right. Okay.
They're like talking about it.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll mention this one first. Jennifer says, I'm a witness in a trial against my husband for his assaults on me. I still shake a lot. How do I prepare? Well, if you're shaking a lot, you may have PTSD from assaults. I have been assaulted in my life, and I have had two individuals break into my house with my elderly mother and I, pistol whip me, and rob us. And so I have PTSD from that. And I have PTSD before I go to bed because the door was broken in right when I was falling asleep. And so it triggers at that time when I start to fall asleep. And so in certain situations, I can be a little shaky at times. Fortunately, it's been a few years back now, which is great. So if you're preparing for, well, in fact, I remember I had to go to the trial of this particular individual, and it was very, very upsetting to have to go to the trial. Very, very upsetting. And I think what I think about is, in when you say in terms of preparation, I assume you mean emotionally preparing, and that, and in fact, someone said I should move to a better part of town. I was actually living in a better part of town. That's what they had never had that happen in my town ever, which is why it was so amazing, and everybody all showed up. And
Just gonna say hi. I'm gonna
Sure.
kiss Jerry on his head.
hey, howdy, hi, Mark. Welcome.
Back to
Thank
work.
you, Mark. I could use a kiss on my head after that discussion. The and so it was, and it was very unusual. I don't know that we've ever had anything there. It was just, I'm not going to go into all the story about it, but the so shake a lot, and I assume you want to prepare emotionally. And what I've thought about is if I have PTSD, that one of the things I can do while I'm trying to heal is that I'm comfortable with medication. And so whether I use an antidepressant that helps with anxiety, or whether for a short time I did use an anti-anxiety medication when I went to bed so I could sleep. So I wouldn't, every noise I would hear, I would think the door is being broken in. And so I was able to sleep by doing that. And then over time, I was able to have time change where now I don't have to take that medication any longer. So sometimes that's a good bridge. Excuse me. We can use that as a bridge while we're in the intensity of the fire. And so I would recommend you might consider that. The other is you might want to work on, you might want to use you might want to use yoga, meditation, body or kinetic work to calm down and to relieve your sense of anxiety, and so that can be of help. Someone asked what's pistol whipping. It's somebody who beats up your face or body with a gun. They smack you with the gun, is what pistol whipping is. For those of you who are not streetwise, I suppose. I'm not real streetwise, but where was I with the... so you might want to use bodily things that can help, meditation, before you go to trial, so you can keep yourself calm. You might check with your doctor to help you for a temporary calm that might help you so you can be strong on the stand and not be so intimidated by him. The other thing you can do is, certainly what I did is I did not look at the defendant. I did not want to look at them. And so that's another, because when you're up there and you don't, I mean, they may have to ask you who did this, and then you have to point to them or whatever, but other than that, I wouldn't look at them, so that there would not be any eye contact that would upset you. And you would just pretend as though he's not there. Look above him, look over to the right, look at the attorney, but don't look at him. Well, I didn't know we were going to get into that tonight. I hope that helps a little bit. I estranged my parents 4 years ago, and this is Jenna. My mom is now messaging me and wants to go to therapy and wants to know why I left the relationship, I assume. I don't want to talk to her as it is scary and depressing, but I do feel guilty. Is there any way to talk to her that satisfies me? Well, that's a great question. Is there any way to talk to her that satisfies me? When I have a situation where I say have gone no contact, or I've, I have had a situation where I have decided to end that relationship, but they don't want to end the relationship. And again, I have a client that I even talked to recently who had pretty much gone no contact with her mother, and her mother keeps and then sends her father as a kind of a flying monkey to go find out why the daughter isn't talking to the mother, and then we have the dad doing the bidding for the mother to try to get that relationship back on track. And the thing is, it's not getting the relationship back on track. It's getting the relationship back in the old enmeshed way that it was. And that's often what parents are asking for. Now, I don't know. She said she wants to go to therapy, wants to know why I left. And what I have told folks is that I know you're asking me those questions, but if you're in therapy, you might want to ask your therapist those questions. Does that make sense? Now, that sounds kind of like I don't want to answer your question. Well, I really don't. Mom, if you're asking me, I want to know why you left, and I'm willing to go to therapy to know why I left and whatever. Mom, you don't need me to do that. You can go and talk to the therapist and see if you can figure out why I left. That would be a better approach than me telling you why I left. Because generally we've left because things have been fairly obvious. As we didn't leave because we just woke up one day and decided, oh, I just think Mom's great, but I'm just going to leave. No, there's been problems. Mom hasn't seen them. Mom isn't aware of them. Then go get some therapy, Mom. Go get some therapy. You don't need me to figure that out. Much like in a divorce situation. When you have a divorce situation, when the spouse tells the other spouse, hey, I'm done with the marriage. I've just decided I want a divorce. And the other spouse goes, well, you have to tell me why. What's going on? Why are you leaving? The person who is doing the leaving doesn't have to answer that question. And generally, I would advise people to say, I think that's something for you and your therapist to work out. It's not for me to give you all of my... it's not for me to give you the answers to that. In other words, if you if you're wondering that, we've been going through the problems of our relationship for a long time, and if you don't get it, if you don't get it by now, me telling you is not going to get it for you. So you need to go talk about your own space and your own situation. Not, I don't need to be giving you my take on it, because it's not going to help you. I've probably already done that for the last 5 years and it hasn't been heard. So you need to go ask your therapist, why am I leaving? And I think the same with Jenna and her mom, that I would ask, well, Mom, maybe you should just go get some counseling for yourself, and that might be of help to you. Then maybe sometime down the road we could have a discussion, but that's down the road. And I really believe that would be the best approach for Mom. Or you could also respond, if you wanted to respond this way, Mom, I really don't choose to talk at this time, and I really don't choose to go to therapy with you at this time. Well, why not? Does it upset you that I'm not wanting to go to therapy with you or talk to you at this time? Well, yes, it does. That's why I'm reaching out to you. Mom, it doesn't upset me. And so, here's the what's helpful about that. And I just put this quote up today on my Facebook. And you can find me on Facebook at Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. On Facebook, you can also find me on www.jerrywiserelationshipsystems.com. You also can find Jerry Wise Relationship Systems YouTube channel. Tonight we're on Family Tree Brand Life Coaches channel tonight. And then we will post this video on my channel as well. Mark Smith and Family Tree will post it on theirs. And so you can find all of my 150 videos over on my channel. You can also find them on Family Tree's channel too. And the point I was going to make, I put this up on my YouTube as a quote, somebody mentioned, do I have my own YouTube channel? Yes, I do. Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. And this quote is, you do not have to mirror or share the anxiety, anger, or emotional intensity of the other person. In fact, enmeshment continues if we share or mirror that and mirror that within us. Now, people say, oh, well, then you mean you don't need to be in, what's the word? Have empathy? No, we of course can have empathy. There's nothing wrong with having empathy. And I do encourage empathy, for sure. Enmeshment and empathy are not the same thing. I don't want to be pinged. I don't want to absorb your emotional state in this conversation. And so when Mom says, well, I want to go to therapy with you, I want to talk this out. Mom, I don't have to share the same feelings or thoughts that you have. And I don't. So I don't want to do that right now. I'm sorry, I just don't want to do that. You can want to, and I cannot want to. And that's okay. At least okay with me. Now, it may not be okay with you, Mom, but I don't know what to, I don't know what, you're going to have to go talk to somebody about it, because I can't, I can't fix it for you. I wish I could, but I can't. I'm not your therapist, and you're not mine. And what I often find, like with Mom has an internal argument going on. I'm upset with my daughter who's I'm upset with my daughter that she won't go to therapy with me and she has stopped talking to me. But yet I don't know why she's done that. Maybe there's some reasons, maybe there's not. But I'm going to contact her and tell her I want to have therapy with her and I want to get this worked out. And then there's one more quote, which is from Anonymous. I don't think anybody knows it. I don't have to attend every argument I am invited to. Mom's having an argument. I don't have to attend it. That's her argument. It's her issue. It's her conflict. It's not mine. She can be, and maybe someday I will talk to her. If you're the woman who's asking about that, maybe you will talk to her sometime. But I would like her to go and, get some help first. Because if she gets some help first, she's going to come at me much differently if she gets her own help first. When I know somebody's not ready when they come to me and say, well, I want to know why you left, and it's been 2 years now or whatever. I want to know why you left and we need to get therapy together. Well, you're just now asking about that 2 years later? I don't know that that's a good sign of things. Now, if you'd have been in therapy for 2 years and said, hey, honey, I want to tell you that I think I've really messed up in our relationship. And I want to say I'm sorry. And I just really want to do that. Well, that's coming at me a lot different than you need to come to therapy with me and you need to talk to me and. Let's see here. I have Debbie has a question. What steps can I take to differentiate from my son, who I believe suffers from cluster B personality disorder? I would assume that the son is an adult son, because if they're a dependent son, you do different things than if it's an adult son. A dependent son, you have to go get help for them, whether they like it or not, because you're in charge. And an adult son, you're not in charge. And so I then have to begin to separate myself while staying open in some ways. I try to do that first before I go to no contact. If they're malignant and horrible and slash my tires and, start my house on fire, I'm not working towards being more self-differentiated with them. I will go no contact and we will have a restraining order. So please remember, I'm not indulging those kinds of behaviors. If you have a child who's an adult and I have a lot of parents who do have adults who have a cluster B difficulty, I usually will tell them you can encourage them to go get some help, whether they want, if they don't want to, they don't want to. They probably need to check out psychiatrists, see if they have a mood disorder. You always check medical problems first, then you go to personality disorders second. So you want to make sure we don't miss that diagnosis. Then you also can say, hey, I'm sorry, but, John, I see you as not being well. And I'm being honest with you. I love you, and I hope you get some help. If we continue to have a relationship like we're having, we're going to be having a lot less contact. And I just want you to know that. And I don't know how to change that. I do love you, but I don't know how to change that. That's the reality that I have. Okay, it's a good follow-up. And then someone says, how do I deal with my mom, who I believe has a cluster B personality disorder? And this is Dollface. And I think that's a very good question too, because of what if they're a parent? Well, and I think the advice would be similar. Mom, I'm going to be open and honest with you without being clinically abusive to you. I'm not going to call you names. I'm not going to call you clinical names. I'm going to say, you have a problem. And that problem needs some help, in my opinion, because I feel miserable as a result of it in terms of when we relate. And that I'm feeling as though I may want to have more space between us and less frequent contact because of it. Now, I'm willing to do that, but I just want to let you know there may be help for you if you get help. If you don't choose to get help, then we may have less contact. There's going to be just less contact because I don't feel comfortable. And I'm not in control of your mental state, but I'm going to call a spade, and there's something wrong, Mom. I'm not a psychiatrist, but there's something wrong. And if you don't want to do anything about it, I can't control you. But I'm never going to act like there's nothing wrong, because I'm not going to de-self. I know there's something wrong. So when my brother comes to me and talks about how wonderful you are, I'm going to go, well, she probably has some good traits, Bob, but I also know she's not well. That's my opinion. It's my subjective opinion. I know I'm not a psychiatrist, but she is not well. From what I know, she's an outlier on the norm. She is not normal. I don't know what the not normal is, but I really think she needs to get some help because she's been doing this crazy stuff for a long time. And in fact, Bob, you probably already know that. But I realize you're not a psychiatrist either, so, but I'm not going to act as though, just like with an alcoholic father, if you have an alcoholic father, I'm not going to act like I don't have an alcoholic father. I mean, that. And I have people who, I remember one client who didn't want to expose her mother's alcoholism that she grew up with, then got sober, and then was sober for the next 20, 25 years or whatever, and didn't want to tell her children about her mother's alcoholism. Well, the problem is then you're holding back a part of your own life story from your kids, and they think mom or grandma only acted this way the whole time, when you as the parent know she didn't. She was a mess. It was horrible while she was drinking. But I have to protect grandma. I have to blah, 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 blah. And in fact, even this grandma went to AA meetings, and she'd come back and say, well, my AA meeting says you shouldn't tell your grandchildren, you shouldn't tell your children, daughter, about my drinking. And I just don't know that AA would say that. That just doesn't fit my recovery process. Being open and honest and not ashamed and living a life free. She had already been sober for a long time, but she just couldn't, and so I don't think she had dealt with the shame. And so what I'm saying is we have to hold on to our reality. That this is my reality, even though I'm not a psychiatrist, there's something not right. And I when I've worked with couples, and I've done this too, many times spouses will believe, we both believe there has to be a problem for there to be a problem in our marriage. And I tell them very quickly, no, you don't. It only takes one to believe there's a problem in the marriage, and the marriage has a problem. It doesn't take two. You don't have to agree that there's a problem. If one person believes there's a problem, there is a problem in the marriage. Now, it may not be exactly what that spouse views it as, but there's a problem in the marriage. This is Christelle. Hi, Christelle. I'm working on my reactivity and knows that it comes from my dysfunctional childhood. Is there ever a time when it would be appropriate to be overreactive? Oh, absolutely. In life-threatening situations, in where the message has to be heard loud and clear. I also have trained and helped people to, at times, intentionally overreact. But it's an act. And so it's intentionally to overreact to affect a certain change in the system. But it's not, if it's automatic and if it's out of guilt, if it's out of reactivity, then it's unhealthy and does harm to you. If it's intentional, then it doesn't have that harm. Then the overreactivity isn't harmful. But it must be intentional, and it must not be connected to reactivity and pinging. So, is there an appropriate time to be overreactive? I think when the situation would warrant it, where it's really a big deal, or life-threatening, or scary, or someone's being abusive. That's not something to just be calm about, unless you're doing it for survival's sake. Then you need to do it for survival's sake. But other than that, I want you to run out of that house screaming and yelling that there's a problem if there is abuse. Because the whole world needs to know. Now, don't take that as literal advice. I don't know the whole context for abuse, and don't say, well, Jerry, you're telling every abused wife that she should run out. But I'm saying there are times when it's that important. That's what I mean in terms of being overreactive. Oh, this is a good question. I don't know, but that's okay. How do I respond to someone who says, "You've changed. You're acting strange. I worry it's the pills you're taking. You're just not the same person." Well, number one, if it's from a caring friend who has no axe to grind, no dog in the race, and is truly altruistic and trying to help you, then I might go, well, tell me more. What do you see as to how I behave or what I'm doing that's changed? Please tell me that. I need that information. Then I can go back to my doctor and say, hey, this is some observations I've been getting. And I might ask some other people and see if they feel the same way. If the medication is actually working and I'm feeling better, not as anxious, not as depressed, I'm able to assert myself more, and then they're going, oh, well, you're acting strange and you must be the pills you're taking. Then I might say, it just might be. I feel much better than I felt before. And that may be strange and different for you. And that may be. And she may say, but I don't like the new change. Well, that's not how I see it. I'm sorry you don't like the new change. I'm not sure how the new change, I'm not sure I know how the new change is affecting you in a negative way. Well, because I used to come over all the time and now you don't need me to come over all the time. Well, I may not feel I need to have you come over all the time. Yeah, but I don't like that. I like the old relationship that we had. Well, that's not...
Read the chat.
Oh, pardon?
Read the chat right now.
Read the chat.
Yeah, it's Guy and Jackie's responding to what you're saying.
I don't see the chat.
She says it's more like a family member who does not understand why they cannot control me and what I do and say anymore.
Okay. And I think if it's a family member, right. Often what happens is when we bridge that gap sometimes with medication, because we're so PTSD or so down or so depressed or so anxious, we can bridge the gap to health and therapy and getting better. Medication can kind of help bridge that gap so we can feel better enough to do the work that we need to do. And so if it's a family member who don't feel like they can control you anymore, then again, it's a matter of, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. Actually, I feel pretty good. And, I see it differently than you do. Or I might say, does my change bother you? Remember the old self-differentiation question, the tennis net question. Does my change bother you? And if they say, well, yes, it does. I don't like this. Well, it doesn't bother me. And I'm sorry it bothers you. That's a shame. But I'm not going to change. This is how I feel. This is how I see it.